time is now 5:11. I'm calling to order the special meeting of the Warwick School Committee on Thursday, April 17th. This time I'd look for a roll call from Ms. Tedeschi.
Mr. Galligan?
Present.
Ms. Hazelwood? Mr. Wiggins? Mr. Testa?
Here.
For present, we have a quorum. I'd be looking for a vote to go up. Nope, excuse me. Pledge of Allegiance. If everybody would please rise for us to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now I'm looking for a motion to go into closed session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under general laws of Rhode Island, RIGL 42-46-5, A1, A2, A4, A8, and A9. Made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 4-0. We're in exec. Looking for a motion to return to open session. Looking for a motion to return to open session
So
made by
moved.
Ms. Hazelwood, seconded by Mr. Testa and Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Looking for a motion to vote to seal the minutes of executive session made by Ms. Hazelwood, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. There were no votes taken in executive session. We're now on to public comment. Individual comments at this time will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for agenda items only. A second public comment session is available later in the meeting for all other topics or concerns. Members of the public are permitted to speak during both of those periods. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record. So at this time, if this is your first school committee meeting, the podium is down here to my left, your right. And if you want to just come on down to the podium, and one after another you could speak. And again, it's 3 minutes per person. So are there any members of the public wishing to comment? And I'm sorry, before you get going here, I apologize. I always try to do this. I do want to recognize from Ward 5, Councilman Ed Lattiser, also Finance Chair for the City Council, and Councilman from Ward 6 just walked in, Councilman Bill Muto. Right on, there's a switch there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Brilliant. Testing. Good. Thank you. Come here. My name's Bridget Camacho. My son, Gabriel, he is a student at Oakland Beach Elementary, kindergarten. And we came today because we were told that budget's going to be in consideration as far as, aides in the classroom, and the question of, how many aides we need per special ed classroom. We have a teacher and 2 aides in our classroom, and it's been unbelievably helpful, and I urge you to consider to continue funding for the TAs. As you can see, my son has a hard time sitting still. He likes to move around. This is called stimming. So he needs to be able to move and self-regulate himself. If you can imagine a classroom with 7 children like him, how is the teacher supposed to teach? How is he supposed to have one-on-one time? How is he able to learn? The answer to that is the TAs. They're so helpful in letting the teacher have one-on-one time with him, with letting him get around with the general population. They get to sit in the cafeteria and have lunch with the other kids. So it's just been a lot for him. Because of the support that's provided by the TAs, my son's able to learn, have lots of one-on-one opportunities. He has a structured routine that he's come to love and understand. The progress he's made this year has been unbelievable. He can count. My son is learning to count. He is repeating more sounds. He's forming more words. The school has provided him with an AAC tablet device, and he uses it to tell me things. If I took that tablet away right now and handed him his AEC, he would go, "I want tablet." He knows he can speak. We would not be where we are today without the dedicated teachers and the TAs. They're so helpful every day, so I won't take up much more time. I just wanted to come and say that I hope you please consider the funding that we need for the TAs. We need them desperately. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for coming out. I'm glad to hear the success your son is having.
Hi, Tracy McDermott. teacher assistant, Warwick Public Schools, and taxpayers. I know, I think you said 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. I might ask for a little bit extra on that, just because obviously the budget is huge. You'll be happy to know I have nothing highlighted on these pages, so that's a good thing. I'm going to start with the fact that for years and years, we used to get a little addendum to this. It was a spiral-bound notebook that had every single employee's position listed, from superintendent to part-time jobs, salary and
Miss
benefits.
McDermott, one moment, please. I'm going to pause your time. I want to make sure, out of respect for you coming out here
Thank
tonight
you.
and
I
having something
appreciate
to
that.
say, I want to make sure that your comments can be heard. So this incredible gentleman here, his name is Sean, and he's going to help us out here.
Okay. Can you not hear me?
It was breaking up. No, it's not your fault. Technology. Yeah. Do you want to give it a test, Sean? Sing us a tune?
You got anything? Hello? Does that sound okay? Okay.
Do you want to just, Miss McDermott, just test it out one more time for us, please?
Sure. Trace McDermott.
There it is. There it
Okay.
is. I'm going to, give me 1 second. I'm going to restart your clock, okay?
There. You could keep that paused if you'd like.
No, it's okay.
All
All
right.
right, go ahead.
All right. So once upon a time, we used to have a binder that had every single employee listed, superintendent down to part-time workers, salary, benefits. Every single position in the school department was listed. It is a public document. I'm a taxpayer. I want to know what every single employee makes. They divided it up school by school. Principal, teachers, TAs, custodial staff, secretaries, everybody's salary and benefits were listed. And as a taxpayer, with a budget as big as this one, that should be public record, and we should not have to ask for that to be provided. That used to be provided at every budget meeting. So moving forward, I would appreciate a copy of that. Okay, I'm going to start with page 1. We've got, actually, your summary here at the beginning, you've listed that there's going to be budgeting staffing reductions. Budget includes staffing reductions to WTU, administration, and WISE. In the past, that was also part of the presentation. There was a general listing of what positions were being cut. That was at every budget. I've been coming here for 30 years to budget hearings, and a general listing of positions that are on the docket for being cut are listed. You've got us going from 103 million down to 100 million in regular salaries. So you're going to cut 3 million in salaries. So 3 million in jobs, you've got to know who they are. You've got to know what positions they are. I'm not asking you to name names. Just positions that are being cut, we should know that ahead of time. I know these are just recommendations, but you've got a number in mind, so you can't tell me you don't have positions in mind. So that needs to be stated. The other thing that was a glaring odd thing that I'm hoping that someone can clarify later, on page 1, we've got General Fund 51201, regular overtime, and 51203, event coverage overtime.
30 seconds.
Oh, come on. I mean, Darlene's the only one left to speak. But you've got us going from $280,000 in regular overtime to the 26 budget up to $580,000. You've got event coverage overtime, $90,000 for this year, going in 2026 up to $550,000. That's a pretty glaringly large leap. So I'm hoping that that is going to be addressed. You've got, let's see, conference workshops. We've got, over the last 3 years, $18,000, $12,000, $17,000, $15,000, jumping up to $42,000. We've got health services providers for students at 80,000, 142, 185, down to $2,000.
Ms. McDermott, if you could round out your final thoughts here.
Well, my final thoughts are that I've gone through every single page and I've highlighted there aren't that many. There's about 10 things here, so another minute would be fabulous.
I understand, but I respectfully, we have committee rules.
You have 30 minutes of public comment, and if you
45.
only have, if you only have a limited number of people
Ms.
commenting,
McDermott,
I would appreciate
I
more
understand,
time.
Ms. McDermott, but we stick to the rules no matter who the person is. It's very consistent.
Well, I'm not saying because of me. I'm just saying you
I-
don't have people to speak.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll be back later.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sandy Letourneau. I'm the Warwick Mentor Program Director. The program has benefited the Warwick students for over 30 years by matching them with an additional positive adult role model from the community, and currently serves roughly 200 students across the city. I'm joined tonight by both a mentor and a mentee who would like to speak on their experiences. We're all very pleased to see that the mentor program currently remains in the proposed draft of the 25-26 budget, and it is our hope that we'll be able to continue to serve the youth of Warwick. I would like to introduce Addie Adams. She's a 5th grader from Lippett Elementary and a mentee in the program.
Thank you. I'm going to give Ms. Adams, is it? Full 3 minutes. It was a change of person. Everybody agreed with that, right? That it would. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Adams.
Hi, I'm Addison Adams. I've been matched with my mentor, Carrie, since the beginning of the school year, actually. I would like to share what the mentor program and my mentor mean to me, just to, Hold up, 1 second. Yeah, 1 sec. At first the program was morely a getaway from class stuff, but once I started to bond with my mentor Carrie in the program, I realized there's a lot more to the mentor program than I thought. The mentor program isn't just something fun to be in, but almost like another family. What I mean by that is no matter how old or new you are to the program, you're always showed love and care, something not everyone gets. My mentor Carrie has helped me realize family doesn't have to be blood, but love. The way her face lights up with joy and my face reflects off hers is immaculate. Carrie helped me realize not everyone in the world is bad. In fact, some are amazing. It's an amazing feeling to see Carrie each week. And I couldn't be more grateful for this program. I hope I'm in it for a while. It's like a short one, but I just wanted to get it out there. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Glad to hear you're having a good experience.
A longtime mentor and Warwick resident, Bill Connors, would also like to speak on his experience.
Thank you. If the committee's not opposed to it, I'm going to do a refresh of 3 minutes for this new speaker as well.
Good evening. My name is Bill Connors, and the mentoring program itself is not the infirmed. Addie did a great job hopping up here. I got my own issue. Anyway, again, my name is Bill Connors, and I've been a resident in Warwick for 62 years. More importantly, I've been in the mentor program for more than 30 years. My children have been educated through Warwick. My grandchildren are through Warwick, and I actually graduated from Pilgrim High School. Having been a mentor to numerous students over the years, I wanted to speak as a Warwick taxpayer about the worthiness of the mentor program itself and the importance it serves to our Warwick students. I've witnessed firsthand through both my time spent with my mentees, their parents, their teachers, the kind words and praise that we've gotten from all of them. It makes a huge difference to our students. It is such an important benefit to our community's children to have the opportunity to have an additional adult support person in their corner. The adult, we're there to listen, to talk. We don't put expectations, not telling them to do their homework and go to bed or any of that. We'll listen. And for many of the mentees, this is such an important event to them, to be heard and to share the thoughts and experiences. I can't say enough how beneficial a cause I feel this is, both for the mentees and the mentors. For myself and other mentors in the program, the mentors get as much out of it as the children do. So thank you for allowing this program and to support it. We get to know that we're giving back and that we're contributing to a wonderful partnership in our community. As my current mentee moves on to high school, it is my intent, in all likelihood, next school year, I will be taking on another mentee. I've had as many as 3 in one given year. And as my current mentor, my mentee, and he's been my mentee for 7 years, and I hope to continue for the rest of our lives, and so does he.
30 seconds, Mr. Connors.
The Warwick Mentor Program truly serves our community well, and I feel grateful for knowing that the youth of the city, they're benefiting, and we are all better for it. I really would like you to give serious consideration to supporting the program, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Connors, and thank you for everything you do with Mentor RI. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Come on down. Ms. Breyer, I know you walked in after the opening remarks. It's 3 minutes per person.
Okay, great, thank you. Hi, my name is Alyssa. I'm the parent of a nonverbal autistic child who has attended the Warwick Public School System for about 3 years now. We started at Welk for pre-K and entered with an IEP and speech and OT therapy already in place. In our first year, we lost our teacher mid-year due to a lack of qualified teachers available at the time. The 2 classroom TAs stepped up and helped run the class while they brought in substitutes to assure that we always had a teacher present in the room. These subs didn't know anything about our kids' individual needs, but those TAs certainly did. This allowed for as little interruption to normalcy as possible. If it wasn't for those TAs, I don't know what would have happened, but I do know that the year would have resulted in a loss of progress for my child and every other child in that class. The classroom my child is currently in is called a self-contained classroom, which has 1 teacher and 2 TAs with only 8 students. This type of classroom is crucial to the special education students who need a higher level of care and support than their typical peers. It's not only necessary to properly fund both the teachers and TAs that are needed to run these types of classrooms, but it literally means the difference between my child's success or failure at education. We are now at kindergarten at the right school with a great team supporting my child, and it would be just devastating to so many families like mine if we didn't continue to budget for the needs of Warwick's most vulnerable students and continue to fund the appropriate faculty and programs needed so truly no child is left behind. Thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you, Ms. Breyer. Ms. Necco, you're a seasoned vet.
I am. Been coming here since 1990 as a teacher. And prior to that, there was occasion when I was a student to come and do some things here too. Darlene Netco, lifelong resident of Warwick, homeowner, taxpayer, teacher, president in the Warwick Teachers Union. My first comment is just one budget item comment. It's item 57311, turnitin.com. This program is vital to those of us who teach English, but also any other teacher. It's an anti-plagiarism site. It catches plagiarism, and plagiarism is rampant. Unfortunately, this year, the program that Warwick paid for did not include the AI detection. So I'm just hoping that whatever we order for next year has the AI detection in addition to the regular old plagiarism detection, because I am finding now more and more each year, more and more students using the stupid AI, and I'm done with it. So short of having the kids write everything in front of me, we need this AI detection, because I've been using the stuff I find online, and then plus my own powers of observation and interrogation to weed it out. And then I'll just have some general comments because I don't want to use up my time. I'm urging the school committee to pass this entire budget as it has been presented to you, to not start making any chips and cuts and whatever away at it, because every year, the school committee does that, sends it off to the city, and then the city cuts more, and then the school committee has to cut more. As Tracy mentioned earlier, it is disappointing that we don't see all the individual FTEs or partial FTEs mentioned, so we can see exactly what is being funded in here. Maybe it's possible you have an idea of which positions you're cutting and you're waiting for retirements to see what you can cut through retirements or so on. But we do need to know what jobs are on the chopping block. And just as a little historical knowledge here for everybody, over the years, both WISE and WTU have lost positions. I mean, I remember when we had third shift custodians in our buildings, and we had matrons in the locker
30
rooms.
seconds.
And we have lost a number of WTU positions. We've also gained some mostly because of special ed. And as Mr. McCaffrey said in the Beacon, you have to staff according to student need. So that goes for teachers and TAs and whatever else. So don't be making any cuts just because you think contract language says you can make cuts. Percentage-wise, the overall percentage doesn't tell the whole story because of the positions that have been lost, but then the positions that have been gained for student need. Also, for the public's edification, let's not forget the 5% below maintenance of effort cut that this city did to this school department over 15 years ago now, and the schools never made it up. The last few years, there has been some increased funding from the city.
If you could round out this.
Yeah,
final
I
thought.
will.
Thank you.
There has been increased funding from the city, but nowhere near enough to combat what was cut from us so many years ago. And one last thing, because Mr. Crowley's sitting right
Ms.
here.
Necco.
He did a great letter or a great article in the Beacon. Anybody who's confused about what schools need for funding should read Mr. Crowley's article.
Thank you, Ms. Necco.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Lamoth. I am a parent of a recent Tollgate graduate, a Windman 7th grader, and I am a speech-language pathologist for Warwick Schools, and I've been working for Warwick since 2011. I understand, of course, that cuts need to be made in order to balance the budget, and I understand that salary and staffing, being the largest line item, is really where the committee needs to consider cuts. I can completely support that that needs to be done. But what I'm here to speak tonight about is the idea of consolidating classrooms as a part of the budget, as a part of a way for cost savings. Park would be a perfect example. That's my base school. I've been there for many years now. We have small class sizes, and that's wonderful. Some classes have 12, some classes have 13. When you look at that, you might think 12 kids, 11 kids, we could put those kids together and make one larger class. And that might sound reasonable until you think about the fact that in that class of now 23 students, there may be 1 or 2 students who have a resource or related service IEP. There may be 3 students with a 504. There will then be 2 to 3 students who have behavioral challenges that are not supported by a plan. So now you have these 23 students, and then you have 6, 7 students that need support. On top of that, what you may not know, and I would be very excited to hear if you did know this, our program students, our intensive academic special education and our adaptive abilities program students, those students are not on the general education roster. So when we're looking at that class of now 22 or 23, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6 students from those 2 programs that legally are entitled to inclusion need to be added on top of that 22 or 23 students that are now in this combined classroom. So now what originally looked like a reasonable number of elementary school students is no longer reasonable, because now you have half or more of a classroom with students that need mild support, medium support, to intensive levels of support. So now it's not reasonable, and now it's not realistic, and now it is not what is in the best interest of any student in that classroom, whether they have an IEP, a 504, or whether they're a general education student. So all I'm here to speak about tonight is just to ask you to consider that when you make these absolutely necessary staffing cuts, you consider the idea of rejecting classroom consolidations that may impact our students. Thank you.
Thank you. Nice job, right on the dot. With a second to spare. Ms. Cardell.
Good evening, Warwick School Committee and members of the Budget Committee that may be in attendance, along with everyone from our community who came out tonight. My name is Jennifer Cardillo. I'm the chair of the Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee. I'm also the parent of a 12th grader at Tollgate who will be moving from a classroom supported by special services at Tollgate into the transition program next year. I'm also a Warwick taxpayer and a concerned community member, all in one person, who's deeply invested in the well-being and the future of our children, especially those who require special education services. The Warwick Special Education Advisory Committee, or SEAC, along with our dedicated special education teachers, staff, and teaching assistants, play a crucial role in ensuring that every child receives the support they need to build skills, to grow, and to thrive in our community. You've heard some of those stories tonight, and I hope you're understanding some of the background behind what I'm about to say. I understand that options are on the table to cut funding for maybe some special education services. I'm urging you to reconsider this decision. Budgeting for special education is not merely a matter of metrics and numbers or comparisons to very similar school districts. At its heart, it's based on the needs of our students. Each child with special needs has unique challenges and requires tailored support to succeed. That just can't be done unless you've got the critical support in place, those who know what they're doing, those who are familiar with the students, and that's our special services teachers, our TAs, and our staff. For me, it always has been when I've heard about the budget being discussed in Warwick, it hasn't been just a line number to me. And I don't think it's a line item for any of the special services students or the parents or our community. It's actually a lifeline for the many families in our community who are supported by special education here. The funding's going to impacts already the quality of education, but any cuts are going to affect the overall development and the prospects of these children. We need to ensure that they have access to the resources and the support they deserve, especially, all those with the stories that you've heard here tonight are just a few samples of that. SEAC has been instrumental in facilitating collaboration and communication between students, parents, staff, and our Warwick community. We provide direct input to school district leaders about policies, programs, practices, and services that impact students with disabilities. We look forward to continuing that role not only for the remainder of the school year, but also going into 2025, and are hoping that the budgets aren't cut in this particular area. So, with thoughtful planning and prioritization, I
30
continue to be
seconds.
hopeful. I'm hopeful that we can find ways to support our special education services without compromising quality for our most vulnerable students. And I'd urge all of us to work together and in consultation and in partnership where needed to ensure that every child can succeed. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you, Ms. Cardillo. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Seeing none. We are on to, actually, if my colleagues don't mind, we'll just take them out of order real quick. We'll start with item 2. Superintendent, do you want to talk about the, on number 2? Oh, yeah, please, Mr. McCaffrey.
Sure, go right ahead.
Okay. Looking to take item 2, discussion action, estate of Gerald J. Habishaw by Administrax Beth A. Zielinski Habishaw versus City of Warwick, case number 202-307-297. I'm looking for a motion to approve the mediation agreement as discussed in executive session. Made by Mr. Wiggins, seconded by Mr. Testa. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. At this time, I'd be looking for a motion to move approval on item number 1 of the meeting, discussion action FY26 Superintendent recommended budget. Made by Mr. Testa.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Hazelwood, Ms. Kirby-Chapman, Mr. Wiggins. At this time, I'll turn it over to Interim Superintendent, Mr. McCaffrey, for discussion.
Mr. Chair and members of the school committee, this evening the Warwick team will present you the proposed budget for FY26. Difficult decisions were made constructing this budget. The budget has been crafted from the school and district levels by our budget managers. In this process, we reviewed all budget managers' proposals several times. Every budget manager understands our financial reality and did a tremendous job in creating their budgets. Personally, I'd like to thank each and every one of them for their hard work and dedication. Especially, I'd like to thank our finance department that's relatively new, that's been on board and working very hard. You've done an awesome job, and thank you. This budget proposal supports student programming. In saving time, I don't want to go through all the program that we are supporting, but I do want to say that as a taxpayer of Warwick since 1988, I understand the need to use every dollar efficiently. I'm looking forward to discussing the FY26 budget with you. I would ask that we showcase the 5-year deficit reduction plan. This is the roadmap to the budgeting process that we are moving forward this year. As part of reducing the projected deficit that has been out-publicized in the community, we want to show you why we are moving in the direction we are moving. On the screen, you'll see the deficit reduction plan where we're forecasting a $6.8 million deficit in FY25. It looks like if we scroll down a little bit further, Mr. Taylor, Dr. Taylor, keep going. You'll see the closure of our audit and what we're projecting for the closure of the audit for FY24. So what we're looking at total expenses for FY25 of $198,339,927. What we're proposing for a budget for the upcoming year, we're proposing a budget of $199,923,690. If we look at the revenue section at the top, you'll see revenue. Obviously, a city allocation would have to be determined by the city council. Also, state aid. State aid is projected at $49,817,303. This is based upon a confirmation of the formula being run by RIDE this past week. So this is the newest number that we have from the Department of Education. Finally, the other revenue that we have are different grants and other things of that nature for a total of $200,262,060. What you see here, you see a budget built with a structural surplus. If you go down to the bottom, Dr. Taylor, you'll see a surplus of, keep going, keep scrolling, $338,370. This is based upon the fact that 2 days ago, the RIDE figures concerning state aid had been changed, and that's why we have a variance right now of $338,370. The focus of this group, obviously, is to support a balanced budget. So after this evening, I would assume, or whenever we have another budget hearing, we would have a balanced budget. Moving forward, we have a revenue sheet. Actually, stay back at the deficit reduction plan. This deficit reduction plan is a 5-year plan. The goal is to wipe the deficit off the books by year 5. If we stick to our plan, if we scroll to the top, you'll see that our asks are based upon reducing the deficit that we've accrued to this date. It looks like a 4% allocation in FY26, a 2.5% allocation in FY27, a 2% allocation in FY28, and a 2% allocation in FY29. In doing the math on paper, this gets us out of deficit by FY29. If you look at the bottom of the page on FY29, you see that we would have a surplus of $638,839. Now, this is a draft. This is a document that we've been working on to help us create the FY26 budget. Who will be responsible for the 5-year deficit reduction plan is up to the Budget Commission as well as the Auditor General. But this is the roadmap that initiated the process that we're starting this evening in developing an FY26 budget. If you look at the math, you look at the allocations, by FY29, we would be in a strong position as a district, and we would be in a strong position as a city as well. At this time, I'd ask that we move forward to the revenue sheet. The revenue sheet you've seen online. As you can see what our revenues were for last year, and you're seeing what we're asking for this year. There is a substantial difference. There has been an increase from the state aid, but this is the reality that we're in. Can we go to the next slide? At this point, we have the summary of the salaries for staffing, and this packet has been disseminated to all school committee members. Are there any questions on the salary general fund items at this time?
Superintendent, do you mind if we just go a little out of order real quick?
Absolutely.
Thank you. We have a couple members of the administration that do have to step out this evening. Before they step out, I just want to make sure that we can have our questions asked of them. So we'll start first with, are there any questions after this committee is going through the budget relative to athletics? Are there any questions relative to athletics?
I think I do have one. I just have to find it here, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Testa.
Bear with me.
Mr. Ricks.
And it may not, I'm not sure if it's exactly a Mr. Ricks question or if it's someone else's question.
Just in case he's here.
Yeah. It's the ACOA code that contains funds for concussions and those kinds of things. The ACOA code had a pretty significant decrease. The only thing left in it, if I remember correctly, was just the funds for concussions. oh, here it is. 53403. It was, I think, Ms. McDermott referenced it. 53403, health service providers for students. If I go into the detail on that line item, 53403, bear with me. 53403. There's only 1,500 line items on the spreadsheet. Okay, 53403. Yeah, it's health service providers for students, so that's athletics, concussion baseline. I think I just answered my question, Mr. Ricks. That used to be where Nest would reside?
Hi, sorry. Yeah, I mean, that particular line item was Nest before we got away from that. It was with the athletic trainer last year, and that's been moved.
Right, because we have athletic trainers on staff now, so those funds were just moved into another line item. Okay. Good.
Correct.
That's my question. That's the only question I had regarding athletics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Testa. Okay. All right, great. So that's it, Mr. Ricks. Anyone else have anything in the budget for Mr. Ricks? Okay, see none. Thank you. So at this time, we'll do our normal process. Mr. McCaffrey has yielded and turned the budget proceedings over to us. Before we get going, I want to make a few remarks. First and obviously foremost, the public should know that tonight is a unique night in terms of Warwick Public Schools history and Warwick School Committee history. We're going to go through our typical process here, where we scheduled a budget hearing, the administration put together the budget, we evaluated it, we do our typical thing, and then after tonight, the budget goes on for the first time ever onto another authorization level. So I just want the public to know, I want our employees to know, I want, basically everybody to have an understanding that tonight what we do up here, it still has to go through another level of authorization. And that party can do the same thing and just approve it and pass it on. They can make modifications, they can make suggestions, but ultimately there's another layer between us and the city's administration and the city council. So I just want to start first and foremost with that. Because I don't want to give, one thing that's very important to me is I never like to give people false hope, false promise. I don't want them to watch tonight's meeting and leave and go, oh, okay, that's all they did, that's all they touched. Understand, this is the school committee. We're looking at this budget. We'll make our adjustments, we'll make our recommendations. Whatever motions pass, they pass. And ultimately, the budget that moves forward, that's the budget and that's it, but there's still another layer. So I don't want to belabor that point any further. Just understand there's another, for the first time ever, another layer of authorization. The second point I want to make is I really just want to express my thanks. I want to express my thanks to Superintendent Danbrook, who's out at this time, who at the beginning of the year initiated the process. Interim Superintendent, Mr. McCaffrey, who grabbed the bull by the horns and just continued to help move it forward. Mr. Crowley, who stepped in as interim finance director. All of our budget owners for their hard work. They were really tasked with a tough job this year, given the circumstances. Typically they get asked, what would you like to have? What do you need to have? Now this year it was really like, all right, of your need to haves, what do you really need to have, right? There wasn't a like to have, section for them. So I want to thank all of our budget owners for going through that very difficult and stressful process. I want to thank Sarah Smith, Ms. Tedeschi. I want to thank our new finance employees who are with us this evening as well. Yes, go ahead. Come on, stand on up. Stand on up. These guys have worked tirelessly. They've worked on FY24 reconciliation, FY25 controlling spend, and at the same time simultaneously helping to contribute putting together FY26. Those three actions alone are substantial activities, and they've been at it for about 2 months now and have done a fantastic job. So I can't thank Carlisle and Yarman enough, and everyone else that has worked with them, and I apologize if I'm missing anyone. I also want to comment on the, and Kayla also, and I want to thank Kayla as well. I also want to comment on the fact that tonight's budget, it does include headcount reductions. It's the worst part of this job. And picture that. You get torn apart on social media pages, media outlets. There's nothing glamorous about what the five of us do. No matter what happens here tonight, I just understand that when I leave, there's going to be a party that's going to be upset. And this is the worst part of the job. We've gotten to the point where with these reductions, we are essentially down to bone, and anything thereafter would be bone marrow. I can't thank Miss Ruggieri enough, Miss Barber, Miss Cousineau, Dr. Schultz, Dr. Taylor. I probably have annoyed them. They're going to have nightmares tonight. But the volume of data and information and early morning texts, sometimes 3, 4 a.m. emails to Ms. Tedeschi and the rest of them, the amount of data that went into the evaluation of this budget this evening, I can't thank them enough for giving that. I know there's a lot of concern regarding the headcount reductions. One thing that I can just tell you is, in speaking with the administration, with the language changes in the WTU contract as of last year, and this being the first full year that contract and those language changes can come into play, we are now in a position where some of those positions may not be necessary. And I don't want it to be misunderstood that I'm saying a TA is not necessary, a special educator is not necessary. I'm saying based on how we're going to now have to restructure as a district, how we're going to form classes, how we're going to schedule students, those positions, that is what has been presented to me. So tonight, that is what I had to examine. The next comment I would have is, I know there's been a lot of discussion regarding headcount reductions and how many we can grab, right? How can we take from this? For me personally, it's a matter of less how many do I feel comfortable with reducing our workforce by, but how many can we actually get by with without impacting student needs and achievement? And that includes our TAs and our special educators and our general ed educators. That's what it's about for me. So one question I do have for council is, there's been this discussion out there in the ether that we could void the WTU contract, or not void it, but override the 20 headcount reduction through a provision that was based on what we would consider as a considerable decline in enrollment, just so that way my colleagues and I can act appropriately here this evening as we move forward through the evaluation of this budget. Could you please provide this committee your legal opinion?
Yeah, so I think what you're referring to is the contract language that allows for layoffs in excess of 20 if there's been a substantial decline in student enrollment. So, you know, I did some research on that today. That language comes from state statute. There's a couple of cases that deal with it in state statute, but because this language is contained differently in the contract, it would be more subject to arbitration. Based on the information that I've been given, that I've seen, there has been a decline in student population. There's no question about that. However, there's also been a corresponding decline in staffing as well as an uptick, a significant uptick in students with IEPs, with 504s, MLL students, and that sort of thing. Based on the information that I've been able to review, I would not suggest, and I would not be comfortable suggesting that you would invoke that provision at this time. I wouldn't.
Thank you. So I only tossed that out there, that question, because I know that we've got to look at everything, and we had Ms. Lamouth, she hit the nail on the head. Over 70-something% of our budget is headcount related. So where do you look first, right? But then at the same time, working with admin, we've had doing the math, just simple basic math. 6% we've reduced our workforce in the WTU side alone since 2017-2018 school year. But since that time, we've also had a 15% increase with students with IEPs, a 40% increase of students with 504s. I think, and that number is staying there. And if you actually look at the state average, we're 2 points higher than the state average in terms of students requiring special services. Also, our students requiring free lunch, 21% increase in that time period. 116% increase with students requiring reduced lunch. So those two combined of students requiring free or reduced lunch, they're looking for a 34% increase in that same time period. So what am I getting at there? Actually, I'll touch on two more. Multi-language learner students, there's been a 90% increase. Back in 2017-2018 school year, there were 170 multi-language learners in the city of Warwick. There's now 323 with this school year alone. I didn't bother even asking for the numbers for next year that we're anticipating. Students who are immigrants that come here and settle in Rhode Island, specifically Warwick, 77. And it was at 100 previously, so a strong percent increase there as well. So all of that, let's look at the students with the free or reduced lunches. Obviously, that would explain the uptick in social workers and psychologists because of we're looking at economically disadvantaged households that we have to consider. And then coming out of the pandemic, obviously social emotional is a big thing, so that would explain the social workers. RIDE has required us, for accountability purposes, to increase our AP courses that we offer here in the city. Obviously that is driving up more teachers. And then another program standpoint, health K-5 has been introduced in that same period that we would consider a reduction in workforce. So that would increase our need for PE teachers at that level, health. And certainly we want healthy children. The other thing that I found very interesting over the past several days and digging on this, just a fun fact. Total number of TAs in the 18 to 19 school year was 29. One-to-one TAs. 29 one-to-one TAs. We're now at 59 one-to-one TAs. 59 one-to-one TAs. This school year alone, again, I didn't bother asking about next year because it's crazy. If you look at 2017 to 2018, there were 199 TAs in the district. We're projecting to be around 225 for the 25 to 26 school year. So if you take that 30 additional TAs that have come into the district in those years, we're actually less in total number of TAs than what we had in 2017 to 2018 school year. So that increase in children requiring those one-to-ones, requiring being the key word there, that's incredible. Class sizes in that time frame contractually went from 28 to 26, so a 7% decrease in seats in the classroom. So, what I'm getting at here with all of this after digging through the budget is extremely, extremely difficult to approve the total number of heads that are on the docket tonight. Behind each one of those dollars is a person. We're looking at, close to 50, if not 50 households impacted. But we're also asking for a substantial increase. And I want to show that we're a fiscally responsible committee, but also that there's morals and values there as well, and that we're not going to continue to dig deeper and deeper and deeper. And we need to make sure that student services and student education and the quality of education in this city are important to this city. And so for that, I will not make any additional comments at this time. I'll wait. But the only thing that I will do at this time is I'm actually going to make a motion at this time. It's on code number 52203, teacher/admin, ERSRI, that's the line. It's budgeted at $15,600,000. That's 15,600,000.00. In discussions with the administration, and then also looking at the employee retirement system of Rhode Island, the contribution rates for fiscal year ending in 2026, I believe that we can make a very conservative decrease on this, no harm, no foul, and still fund it at what we need to fund it at. And then also with some changes to the plan and the calculations. I'm going to make the motion right now that we decrease this by $3 million. That is motion to decrease 52203 by $3 million. If we can get if somebody would second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa. So I'll open it up to discussion. The local employer rate is 15.10%. Again, we budgeted $15,600,000 using the historical spend in this area. I don't think it would be prudent to take the full $3.5 million out of that area just in case we have something significant there. So I think we leave the $500,000 just in case the spend is a little different year over year. And so my suggestion here is that we take $3 million basically right up to it, and we automatically already decrease our spend there. Is there any other comments from members of the committee on this motion?
Moved and second. I have a question.
Mr. Testa.
Thank you. I guess this is for Mr. Hennius. Mr. Hennius, are the rules around the ESRI pension any different than the rules around the private pension as far as contributions go?
I couldn't hear you, David. I'm sorry.
Are the rules around the ERSRI, what do you even call that?
Yeah.
All right. Are the rules around contributions to that different than the rules around the private pension?
I believe they are, Mr. Testa. That's not my area of expertise, but the private pension is governed separately than the ERIs.
Right. So if this committee made this cut and then we really couldn't make the cut, we got to come back with that money, right?
That would be my expectation, yeah.
Right. So
assumption.
okay. That's my question. Thank you.
Just to clarify, Mr. Testa, we are over budgeting substantially on this line item. It's not a cut to the pension. It's a calculation change.
Right. So I guess, are you saying that the ARC is actually less than what we're putting in?
Yes, sir. What I'm saying is that we budgeted. So take the salary line item, right? And then do 15.10% of that. You'd get a figure. But that salary line item, this particular program that I'm speaking to, is only specific to teachers and administrators, not relative to WISE union members. So what you need to do now is take that salary line item, remove the compensation of the WISE union members out of that salary line item, and then do the 15.10% off of that figure.
Right. So what you're saying is you take the WTU salaries, the WTU total salary,
Plus
not our district total salary.
Plus administration.
Right. Whoever's in that pension. Whoever's in that pension, those are the aggregate salary amounts that you're going to take, and that's what we'll be calculating.
Yes, but we're correct. But we're doing the contribution that has been advertised. We're
No,
not
no.
doing any different
No.
of a contribution. We're
No,
doing the 15.10%.
No, I understand, but what you're doing is you're just saying you're taking that 15 point something percent off of a smaller number,
Correct.
right? So the 3 million, is that the number? So my question is just a mathematical one. If
It
of that
wouldn't-
$100 million salary, whatever it is, salary line, if WTU is, say, 90 million of that, you're saying we're going to contribute the 15.6% of the 90 million. If that is, or whoever is in that
No,
pension,
what-
right?
no,
Am I misunderstanding it?
Yes, what we've budgeted is $15.6 million
Right, which is about 15 point something percent of 100 million.
of the 100 million, correct.
Right.
But we're going down to a lower number, and we need to be budgeting for 15.10%.
Okay, but 15 point, yeah. So my question is, what's the number we're taking the 15.10% on? Because 15.10% on $100,832,000 is roughly $15 million. It's a little over 15. So I understand where you're coming from. I just don't know what that number is. So again, if I'm not understanding it, I'm
That number, correct me if I'm wrong, administration, would be $77,873,742.81. So 15.10% of that would be approximately $12,101,579.63. Approximately a $3.5 million difference.
Yep.
There's a lot of numbers here floating around now. Approximately a $3.5 million difference between what we budgeted for and what our historic spend has been.
Yep.
And
Yeah, no,
that's why I'm suggesting that we don't go all the way down to our historic spend, because we just had a big issue in FY25 where we got very, very, very conservative, and we drew down all the way to like, hey, this is what we've spent last year, so let's budget for that. But we didn't account for escalation, increased employment, new claims, and with healthcare obviously on the rise, I think it would be prudent not to completely take everything away there.
Yeah,
So
no,
leave
you-
500,000 additional.
You
now.
answered my question. But my question was, what's the
Stop yelling at me, Mr.
What's the top
Testa.
line number
Stop.
that you're applying that percentage to? Okay. Putting it that way, that's fine. You've answered my question. Thank you.
So we've got our first motion on the table. It's a $3 million reduction based on a calculation change from the initial ask. So there's a motion, there's a second. Any other discussion on this item? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. I have nothing else. I'll yield. Anyone else? I've just yielded. Yep, we can keep going down the budget if you'd like at this time.
Oh, are you done presenting? Is Mr. Caffrey done presenting? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to take a little bit of time here. I'm just going to
Mr.
take my
Testa.
spreadsheet. Okay, my question, I think, is for Mr. Crowley and Mr. McCaffrey. So we have a salary budget line of $100,832,000.
Mr. Testa.
Yes.
I'm sorry. You're going to be upset at me.
Oh, well,
Miss Ruggieri also has to go.
okay.
Miss Ruggieri, do you have anything that you'd like to present to us?
I'm not going
And
anywhere.
then members of the committee. Huh?
I'll try to be brief. I know we're short on time, but I just want to explain the process of how we get to layoffs and all of the projections that we make. As we know, as everyone has alluded to tonight, these have been very difficult situations for all of us, as well as the committee who has the final vote. Administration, it pains us as well, so I want that to be known to everyone. How we get the numbers is each department, they look at enrollment numbers, they look at student need, they look at contractual class size, they look at everything that we would need to staff our schools. Once those decisions are made, those numbers come to me. I then figure out the people that are affected. So one might think we could assume step 10 salary reductions, but that's not how it would work because we're seniority based. So we might be able to make a reduction. Let's use just a hypothetical, grade 4 at Cedar Hill is eliminated. So that's a step 10 teacher. However, that step 10 teacher, has a right to a job over a less senior teacher. So what happens is we then look below them on the seniority list, and it might only be a step 1 or step 2 or even step 4 teacher. So we made assumptions when we do this based on step 3 to be conservative. Now, at the same example, maybe that grade 4 reduction is a retirement, and then we can actually assume that step 10 reduction. So our projections are conservative. We don't know until we know what retirements are coming in. It's very early in the year. We don't have all of those numbers yet. And we don't know if they're going to align. It might be, it's the grade 4 teacher, but we need a grade 3. So now that person, someone moves back and forth. So I just want to make that clear to the public that it's not teacher salary reduction where it comes. And we look at position reductions when we're looking at the cost savings. So while it might be 20 positions, through attrition, through movement to other dual certifications, it might not equal 20 layoffs. It might. We also have to look at people who share a seniority date. Then we have to bring them in, draw numbers. Who goes to job fair, who gets laid off. So it's a very complicated system. I meet with WTU when I've gone through the process. It's convoluted if you don't do it every day, but I just wanted to get that out there so that people understand exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jerry. Mr. Testa had the floor. And so, Mr. Testa, if you have any questions for Ms. Ruggieri, and then we can work our way down. I have nothing for Ms. Ruggieri, so, and then that way we can.
I don't. I would just say that the way you explained it makes perfect sense. It's hard sometimes to wrap your head around FTEs, because FTEs aren't necessarily individual people, right? And so when you, to your point, you could eliminate 23 FTEs and only lose 18 people, right? So it's just it's something a lot of people struggle to wrap their minds around, but I have nothing else.
Thank you. Anyone have anything for Ms. Ruggieri? Mr. Wiggins.
I just want to thank you for that, only because obviously this is my first one. I had a lot of questions going back and forth, so I really appreciate everyone, your patience, and especially getting to know how this works. So I appreciate that explanation, and I appreciate what you've done, and thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions for Ms. Ruggieri? Ms. Ruggieri, best of luck with everything tonight. Thank you. Huh? Okay, Mr. Testa.
Thank
Again,
you.
I apologize, sir.
That's quite all right, quite all right. All right, so my initial question would have been, I think, for either Mr. Crowley or Mr. McCaffrey. So the salary line number we have at $100,832,000, as we know, this is the number that got us in the situation that we're in. So we're projecting next year this number. Now, we also know we have 2 contractual raises for next year that would total about 3.5 to 3.6 or 3.7. So if we're saying that the difference between salaries in 25 and 26 is $1 million and change, so we're very comfortable saying that the reductions that we made more than cover what the raises would have been had we stayed fully staffed. Is that correct?
I'm not sure exactly. We are here. I'm not sure if I know exactly what your question is. The projection originally was there's approximately a $6 million difference between what was budgeted in this fiscal year versus what's being budgeted next fiscal year, because the reason is the reason for the Budget Commission was this year's budget was not adequate to cover the costs of this year's expenses. So that amount of money has to be made up from this year, in addition to what you were talking about, the 2.5% plus the 0.5% increase for next year, step increases. That's about $600,000 just in terms of step increases. So there was a pretty significant difference between what's budgeted for this fiscal year versus what's budgeted for next fiscal year.
Okay, so So let me ask it again. I'll try to ask it in a different way, but I don't think I can. So if the number in front of us right now for regular salaries is $100,832,000, I'm going to ask you guys, you comfortable with that number? So 6 months from now, we're not going to say, you know what, it's really $104 million. That's my question. Maybe my editorializing about how we got in the situation we're in, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I want to know, because I know we have contractual raises this year. We have Wise and WTU are both getting raises, and I think the total, typically, you know, a point is about $1 million. All right, that's historically been the number. So I think between the two raises, it's 2.5, and so it's 2.5 for WTU roughly, and I think it's probably $750,000. Maybe I overstated, but $750,000 for Y. So we will be looking at $3 million an increase in salary. Forget steps. We'd still look at the increase in salary, right? So when I see the number, I just want to make sure that I know we've reduced FTEs as well. So that's going to take the number down, right? I want to make sure that, you know, come October, November, or December, that we're not in a salary line issue like we've been in the past. That's all. So I guess it's kind of a yes or no. If we're comfortable with the number, we're comfortable with the number, but we're going to vote on that number.
The number I provided for salaries for next year is based on, very specifically, on every single position within the district and the people who are in those positions and how much their salaries and stipends and such are.
Okay, I think you've answered my question. Thank you. Regular overtime, someone else brought this up in public comment. There's a really big spike in regular overtime. So I'm not sure what would drive that. What are we expecting for next year that would drive according to my numbers here, about a $280,000 increase in regular overtime? I mean, I understand if we reduce staff, sometimes a byproduct of that is overtime. I get that. $280,000 in overtime, you're better off to keep people. So, I mean, if the answer isn't readily available right now, that's fine. But that's an answer that I would like, Mr. McCaffrey.
Mr. Testa, what are the total of those two lines that you're looking at?
I'm looking at 51201, regular overtime. According to this, it's budgeted at $580,000.
That's an older version of the budget, and we have $280,000 in the presentation this evening.
So it's
that had been updated. It's $280,000 in that line. In the event line coverage, we have $90,000 in that line. So those have been adjusted accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
To be within based on the actuals.
Okay, so this is just going to make my questioning take longer now because the numbers I have obviously are not. Okay. All right, so then I'll ask again, 51203 is event coverage overtime. What are we budgeting for that?
I believe I just discussed that. It was $90,000 in that line.
Okay.
And I think your version has a higher amount, right?
Yeah, a lot higher, yeah.
Yep.
Okay. 51303, Professional Development District. Is anything budgeted for that?
There's no budget.
Okay. 51322 says severance, and it's showing $300,000, which is a $121,000 increase, unless my number is wrong.
Severance is based upon the retirements for WISE, and the calculation is determined by how many people are anticipated to retire.
Right. So that's kind of it's not a hard number, right? It could change.
It could change, but we have sufficient money in there to cover the severance that may happen this year.
Thank you. 51336, class overage waiting. I showed a $500,000 with it, which is an increase of $350,000. That can't be right, can it?
That's something that could be adjusted down.
Okay.
Maybe $100,000.
All right, so I keep a little tab here of stuff to reduce. 51401 said stipend other. Is that zeroed?
It looks zeroed, yes.
Okay, but in previous years it was six figures, so we need to clarify that one. 52101 is health and medical premiums. I'm showing 22.9 million bucks, $3.5 million increase. So are those numbers accurate?
Currently, we have an invoice from our insurance carrier, and when you adjust for the different co-pays that exist, that's a true number. I will tell you that we have been meeting with other carriers out there to look at this number and see if we can get better pricing. It was one of the recommendations from the Auditor General, and we have met with two providers to date. This may be subject to change depending upon how the numbers look, but I can share with you our invoice from WB, so you can see where that number comes from.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I'm not questioning the number. I'm questioning the increase, because $3.5 million on over what it was last year is about an 18% increase, and I thought the healthcare was going up.
I understand. We're also self-insured
Right.
in this process.
Okay.
So
And I know in the past that it's come up a couple of times. The city and the schools get on the same health care, and I think a few years back, maybe more than that, there was a consultant I worked for that came to the city and said, if the school department flipped to their plan, there would be an initial deep savings in the first year or two, and then the savings would go away. And then I would just say, let's be careful, because my understanding was, if we go to some other providers, sometimes if you want to change providers later, they've got a hook in you, and all the money that you may have in there in a surplus, you don't necessarily take with you.
Yeah.
So
What we learned from this process is that meeting with representatives from the city, representatives from the state, typically you would hire a third-party specialist who has expertise in this area to evaluate the different plans to determine what's best for the district. As you say, sometimes enticed by a dollar amount doesn't mean that it's always the best plan
right.
for the group that you're serving.
Right. I want to chase a 1 year or 2 year savings to set us up in a worse position in year 3 and 4. I'll be gone by then, but still wouldn't want to see that as a taxpayer. 52109, is that zeroed?
It appears to be. I would defer to Mr. Crowley on this one.
That's the number of people who opt for a buyback versus the health coverage.
Right, but is it zeroed for 2026?
That's the information I have on looking at the staffing that we projected.
Okay. That one's going to be a problem, I think. I also want to go back up to 51132. Is that zeroed? Or is it included in another line?
You're saying 51132?
51132. Says salaries, department heads.
Department head salaries are built within the general salary
So
line.
that's in the regular salary line?
That's in the regular salary line.
So that's
yes.
why it's showing it, okay.
Yes.
That one made my heart skip a beat there, okay. 52204, private pension payment, we're at 2.27. In previous meetings, I said we were married to 3.5. I may address that a little bit later. 52710, workers' comp premium. Are we budgeting a $552,000 for that? Because it's a significant increase over 25. Yeah, a big increase over 25, almost double. And I know that's an inexact number. You know, if everybody's healthy and doesn't get hurt, we just don't pay as much.
It's essentially based on history.
Okay, so it's 552, okay. 52902 says Employee Assistance Program. My document shows it's zeroed, but I don't think we can not offer that kind of a benefit, right? Isn't that, are we mandated to offer that?
I believe you're referring to the EAP program we've had in the past, and that's covered within our plan with the trust. So employees receive services through the trust now, and it's part of our insurance plan that we have now.
So it's in our healthcare line?
It's in our healthcare line, yes.
Okay, thank you. 53216 is tutoring services. I'm showing that as zeroed. But is that something we may have moved to another UCOA line? 53216.
Can we pull the ZBB up on that?
Yeah, I've got it right here, actually. 53216. Actually, it's not showing up in the latest copy of the ZBB. So either way, if we have it, well, that'll have to go back in. I show it as 25 was 81,225.
What's the actual on that?
It shows 0 for this year, so based on last year, it was 81,225.
And we haven't used any funds, haven't charged any funds to that account this year, right? Based on the actual you're telling me?
No, it's showing FY 25 actual was 29.8, and there's 51 remaining. So we just budgeted 0. I know this is like watching paint dry, but next item I have is 53218, student assistance. I think this is a question for Ms. Barber. Within that, on the ZBB, there's 300,000 for DCYF. That's usually an accurate number, right?
It is.
Fairly, right?
Yep,
So that,
it is.
yeah, if it changes, hopefully it changes to the downside.
That would be nice.
Okay.
And that also includes 2 student assistance counselors at the high school level.
Yeah, yeah. I just looked at that. When you look at the detail, that's the lion's share of it. Let's see. 53401 is auditing actuarial services. It's $100,000, and what that is the school's share of the city audit and actuarial services. Given that we're not in the best of positions, I don't know, Mr. Chair, if you would like to avail yourself to the city to see if they'll pay that $100,000. So
say that one more time.
53401. It's our share of the audit, the annual audit.
Oh,
we
yeah.
pay $100,000. It's the city's auditor that audits our books.
Oh, we got a couple counselors
So,
here. They'll waive it.
It's
That's
$100,000.
fine. Yeah. Counselor Ladder, thumbs up. No, he's shaking his head. No, I guess we're not cutting it. 53402 is slightly down. I thank you, Mr. Hennius. That one was answered. Yeah. Ms. Barber, this is you, 53417, contracted nursing services. It's $850,000. I mean, that's a lot, but it's needed. I understand.
Right,
So-
yeah, and it is accurate.
Okay.
It's
And that
usually
can
falls
fluctuate.
short, right, so.
Okay. I'm almost done here, I think. All right. I don't know who this is related to. This, Mr. Oliver, this might be you, or Ms. Higgins, this may be you. 54310, it says non-technology related maintenance. There are 2 entries that say towing, carpet cleaning, gym floor resurfacing. One's for 12,000, one's for 0, but it doesn't identify a school. So is that just, are we going to do one gym? And that'll be to be determined?
Yeah, what we end up doing is we'll pull it from the top line and put it with the school so that it's
When it's decided which one we're going to do, okay. Also, in that line item, I think this could be for Dr. Taylor or Mr. McCaffrey. There's a $1,000 request for Windman for walkie-talkies, but in UCOA line 57305, there's a $12,000 ask for Windman that includes walkie-talkies. So I think it probably just was duplicated. So if you look in 57305, which I'll scroll down to shortly, There's a $12,000 ask. So 57305, I can get there right now. And it says, that's a big detail entry because there's a lot of schools in it. $57305. All right, 57305. It says, should be easy to find because he types in caps. Yep. If you're looking in the current ZBB, it's line number 1400. It says we need updated printers that print in color. We don't have enough working walkies. We need to replace all in the building. So there's a $12,000 line item there. So I'm assuming that the walkies are in that line item and not the $1,000 one.
Correct. I can speak to that too, Mr. Testa.
Okay.
We've got, because I remember the conversation we had with the principal. Although it says replace walkie-talkies, the other things in that line say batteries and repairs. So it was the batteries and repairs for $1,000, and the larger walkie-talkie purchase was in the other piece.
Okay. Okay, so why wouldn't we just roll it into, couldn't you just roll that into the other UCOA line item?
Yeah, and just for a little clarification, a walkie-talkie that would be purchased is $600-700 a walkie-talkie, where a battery might be $200 a piece. So that's, why it's separated out that way is probably because of the repair, because I think the line was non-tech services, so you're actually paying for the repair of the walkie-talkie to fix something wrong with it.
Okay.
So that's probably why it lives there versus a hardware line, which would be for the actual item.
All right. This is you, Dr. Taylor. I think next one, 54311, maintenance, repair, fixtures, equipment, service. Most of it is copy machine and service. This is, it's $2,632 per copy machine service and maintenance. So that lives in one place. That's part of the contract that we just approved at our last meeting, right?
You've got it, yeah. So there's two things in the budget that are always there for copiers. You've got a lease side and you've got the service side. And those marry together, but they have to be separate UCOA lines because they're separate object codes. But those numbers were able to remain unincreased for this next year because of last month's school committee meeting.
Gotcha.
We're just awaiting approval from the city to be able to take action on that, so that for the same price we're paying now, we can get new machines to replace the broken machines that are frustrating people. So that's the next thing we're looking for.
Excellent, thank you. Next one is 54312, general service contracts. I think, Mr. Crowley, this is for you. I'm showing 0, but the ZBB detail shows 120,000 in that line. So
That's correct, 120,000.
all right, so we just want to make sure it's included in the budget document.
That one is, I believe that's the elevator service.
Right, elevator services and stuff like
Elevator
that.
services, that is in there. That was.
Okay, I apologize for that. 54601 is renting land and buildings. We're only budgeting, from what I see, $48,034. That's 54601.
That's in the event we need field space.
Right, so my question is, it's only increasing $500. Are we being a little too conservative there?
Well,
Or?
at this point, we're really not leasing any space. We're fortunate that the schedule fell the way it did. Come fall, we will need space.
All right, so it shouldn't be a big hit to that. Okay. 54901 is other purchase property services. Is that at 44,000? 54901. My document showed 0, and it showed 101,000 for fiscal 25. But the detail is showing 44,000.
My eyes aren't what they used to be. Give me a second.
Expand the screen.
That falls under my category, I believe.
Is that you, Mr.
44,000,
Oliver?
Right.
So it's 44,000 in the detail, right? So
That's correct.
I guess Mr. Crowley and Mr. McCaffrey want to make sure that that's showing in our budget line item. 55111, transportation. It's showing 13.1 million to 900 million, no, $928,000 increase. My question is, I know there's a lot of components to that line, but that's about a 7.5% increase. Our bus contract, I think, has a 10% increase. The first student contract, when we approved that. For all the small buses, it was 10% increase and then a 12, I think, on the special ed buses and I think the vans. So I don't know if, because all the other transportation is in there, I'm not sure if we're seeing reductions there that are impacting that. I just want to make sure we're not under budgeting that number, that's all.
This is something that's been reviewed by Carla McGovern.
Okay.
She has vetted the number.
Okay.
So she, I believe it, what is it, 13.4, is that what you're saying?
13.166.
And then there's another line item for transportation too, I believe, right?
Well, there's a transportation contract to cybersecurity. In the item detail, there's a lot in it. That's 55111. There's a lot of stuff in there in trans. So it has special ed trans, I believe. I'll get there in a second. 55111. Yeah, so in that is the athletic department's transportation budget is in there. There's transportation, non-public and private. That's 930. Ride out of district special ed trans is in there. That's 2.6. And I know we've been getting creative on some of that statewide and ride stuff. But again, if you're comfortable with that number, then I'm comfortable with that number. I want to get down to the 55610, 630, 640, 660. 55610 is tuition to other school districts. So that's 2.7 million. I believe that's pathway programs. I believe. So do we know how many kids we're sending out of district? Do we have that number?
It depends on what program you're asking for, whether it's special services, a pathway.
Yeah, well, I think special services is its own line number because 55610 is tuition to other school districts within, and then it cuts off. That's 2.7. Then there's tuition to private sources. And most of that's, a lot of that's special ed. That's 7.5 million of the 7.6.
We can get you that number.
Okay.
There's no, to determine the accurate number for that, we won't know until the start of the school year. We have
Okay.
students
Yeah,
that can actually
true.
show up in Smithfield, they can show up in Warwick, they can show up in Cranston, but we can give you the data for that. We'll
Okay.
provide you the
Yeah.
data.
And in charter schools.
The
too.
budget that we went through for tuitions, we did look at the student enrollment, and we did determine the tuition based upon the enrollment and for students we have there now. I sat down with Dr. Taylor to review this. Dr. Taylor, do you have something to add to that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great question, a really good project that's being worked on in the finance department along with a group of interns that they're working with. And they have mapped out the out-of-district placement, the pathway program, the number of students, but even what was taken into consideration for this budget is the grade they're in, right? So if we have a 12th grade student, say in East Providence this year, we have a not 12th grade student there anymore next year because in theory they've graduated. So these numbers are even more reflective, maybe more precise than in years past because of that level of detail thanks to the department.
Yeah, well, just in total, it's $15 million on those 4 UCOA codes. You know, I know the special ed out-of-district programs, I get that, but the pathways and the charter schools, until I'm done here, I'll be railing against them because it's just not fair how they do it. It's school choice, and they don't fund it as such, and it hits districts like us pretty hard.
I believe it's probably the 3rd or 4th year you've brought it up, and
Yeah, I'll bring it up to the day I die.
we're still in litigation. I want to share with you that we're still in litigation with this matter.
Yeah, we should be, because it's awful, awful. Electricity 56215, I know we under budgeted, but Mr. Oliver, you said we had Greenwood and Oakland Beach that came online with new systems that are electric, right?
That's correct.
So do we think that that's the entire reason, or did our rates go up as well?
It's a conjunction of both, rates going up and consumption going up.
Yeah. And then, Mr. McCaffrey, I don't know if anybody here knows anymore, but didn't we used to buy electricity? We used to buy futures in electricity, I thought.
No,
Oh, we broke it.
we still buy,
Right, we buy energy credits, like green energy credits too.
correct.
Okay. Yeah, when Mr. Enos comes in, we're gonna have to look at that a little more deeply to see if there are more.
We
savings.
also have been provided credits from the city as well. When they have carryover credits, they've provided them to
Okay.
us.
Okay. I did that one already. All right, Dr. Taylor, this is you. 57309 is technology-related hardware. And I
No.
sent you an email on this and you answered. So I know we replenish the fleet, so to speak. We do that periodically, right? And I know that there's $380,000 to replace 1,900 Chromebooks at $200 a piece. My question to you is twofold, and it's really to you. It's to Ms. Ms. Cousineau. I have a question for you on transportation. Sorry, one of them was the Save the Bay. That's included in the transportation. We're still going to run that Save the Bay trip, right?
So currently, the Save the Bay is a grant-funded program, and the grant has expired. So unless we get a new funder, then we won't have that program.
Okay. All right, thank you. Sorry, I digressed. All right, Dr. Taylor. So what's the downside? It's a two-part question. What's the downside if we delay replacing the fleet by 1 year? And then maybe we purchase a couple hundred as safety stock if we don't have safety stock, but I assume we do, right? And I say that because I think, as much as I've been a proponent of one-to-one in the district, and I was proud when we were one of the first districts to go one-to-one, the more I learn, I'm not quite sure how beneficial for a kindergarten or a first grader to have a one-to-one Chromebook. So if we delay the replenishment a year, then we can have a conversation about whether or not it's advantageous in K through 1 to have a one-to-one. And I'm not equipped to tell you I think it's a good idea or a bad idea. I mean, I can read stuff just like everybody else. And I've read, there's two schools of thought, and I understand them both. But I do question now, how critical is it for a kindergarten or a first grader to have a one-to-one Chromebook? Because, based on the populations, right, we have 329K, 532 first graders. That's 861 kids. So that's 172,000 or so, right, cost. And then if you add the second graders into that, it's 285,000. Now, maybe second grade's a little tougher because now you're starting to prepare them for RICAS and everything else. I get that. So I think, finances being what they are, I assume every iteration of Chromebook that we get is a little bit better. So, I understand there's a risk. If we delay putting off replenishment for 1 year and then just start the clock next year, how bad is that?
So there's a couple things in there, and I'll see if I can try to explain it a little bit. So we, grade K, we don't provide a new Chromebook for each year. We have a stock of touchscreen Chromebooks that we purchased a few years ago, and they stay in the grade K. So when the students leave, those devices stay there. So we wouldn't save anything for the grade K students. Our typical rotation plan is grades 1, 5, and 9. And we've been doing that now, fortunately, every year for the last 5 years. So that way, when a student enters grade 1, they have that same device for 4 years, and then they turn it in, and then they get a new one in grade 5 for 4 years, grade 9 for 4 years. The thing that we're often up against is Google, right? So the devices, when we purchase them, and we do the best we can to ensure that we get the best, what's called end of life on a device. So one of your questions was, what's the risk, right? So if by not replacing a device that's been in the hands of our students for 4 years already, that becomes end of life, it no longer accepts updates, security updates, and does pose a risk on our network because of those lack of security upgrades. That's Google, for you, and kind of probably their strategy to ensure that devices are not, even if a device looks great, even a device that is brand new in a box that somebody puts in a closet and takes out after 4 years is still end of life. Like it doesn't have anything to do with the usage. It has to do with the time, the ticker that's put into the device. And then as far as if the idea is to delay altogether for all devices next year, then that would be a concern. If the idea is to delay, just say grade 1 next year, I think that's what you were saying when you said K and 1, I would take K off of that. But if you were to say, what if we don't do Chromebooks in grade 1? Then the grade 2 students next year have theirs from this year. The grade 3 students have theirs from 2 years ago, and the grade 4 students have theirs from 3 years ago, and that's fine. The only thing I wouldn't be comfortable making that suggestion now without a plan for what does grade 1 look like next year, right? Because if we decide that all these students that have left kindergarten and go into grade 1 for September, we would normally pass those devices out at some point in the summer. What would their first grade year look like? I would want to consult with Ms. Cosino, Dr. Schultz, to make sure that, because as we know on the curriculum side, we have a lot of programs that we purchase that need access to, and we would just want to make sure that by saying no Chromebook in grade 1, that their access to the programs that you're going to purchase later on in the curriculum side of the house are not affected, right? So we just want to make sure that that's tied together, because I think when we made the decision, and I don't know if it's the cart or the horse, but when we made the decision to go a lot of digital resources versus textbooks, then Chromebooks or any device for that matter became part of the narrative. So we would want to make sure that we don't, in October, we're not getting a lot of complaints that kids are not able to access curriculum resources. And even if we were to come up with a plan, because I think somebody had a question, which was an excellent question, can we go, I think a teacher also contacted me, can we go back to putting a set of Chromebooks in a classroom instead? And that's fine, but instead of passing out 26 Chromebooks to the students in the class, we would have to have a rack of 26 Chromebooks sitting in the class, which is often done in the earlier grades anyway. They really don't take their Chromebook home, but they're available in class for use. So we would just need to think that through before making a cut.
Okay, yeah, and I know nothing happens in a vacuum, so if we did something like this, then if you didn't have a Chromebook, then you're going to run photocopies, you're going to need text, you're going to need something else, so you're going to be spending money on something else.
Absolutely.
Right, because a reaction is an equal opposite reaction. So according to we have the figures. Projected enrollment in first grade next year is 532. So if we didn't do that, I mean, that's $100,000, right? So I could make the motion to cut that by $100,000, or you want to have that discussion, and then when you come back, we can opt not to buy them. Right? I don't know if the chair has a what's the word I'm looking for? I'm getting tired now. An opinion, one way or the other. Reduce that one
Mr.
line
Testa,
item.
can I ask Dr. Schultz?
Yeah.
How much curriculum, and Ms. Cusino, how much curriculum is on?
Well, one sec.
Sure,
Before, could I just get a point of clarification from my colleague? You're using the projected enrollment for 25 to 26, correct?
Correct.
And for grades what?
Grade 1.
Grade 1. 523 was the number you said?
532 times $200 a piece.
I've got
So
523.
I have 523.
yeah, please. I mean, I could be wrong. So
No, I just
you
wanted
guys are the
to make
experts,
sure
not
I
me.
was. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yep.
Me? Okay. So my concern with that is that, as Dr. Taylor said, the kindergarten classrooms, the Chromebooks are touch screens specifically bought for kindergarten students, so they stay in the kindergarten classroom. When they move up to grade 1, they're issued a student Chromebook that they take for those 4 years. If there are no Chromebooks for grade 1, then they can't take their diagnostics beginning, middle, and end of year. They work with the librarian and they do projects in library. They have all those apps and those curriculum pieces, which Dr. Schultz can talk about. For me, that does worry me. I don't know if I should say it out loud, but my thought would be in the 4th to 5th grade year, maybe moving that out, because they have a Chromebook and they could take it to the next grade. But I don't know about end of life and all that stuff.
Okay.
I just know that if we don't purchase Chromebooks for first graders, they can't take the diagnostic, and that's a whole can of worms right there.
Understood.
And
Okay.
then I can have Dr. Schultz talk about curriculum things.
I think I could just rephrase my question, I think. So we're going to look to buy 1,900 Chromebooks, right? And that's 1/3. So I guess what I'm asking is there a way we can buy fewer Chromebooks, right, this one time? That's all. How they're dispersed by grade? Well, I wouldn't profess to know what's good and what's bad. I would never want to not have a first grader have the device they need to do the work that we asked them to do. So that's all.
And to just answer that question, it just, because of the cyclical nature of the devices, if we bought just, let's say, just for argument's sake, we bought 500 less next year, that means some students are going to have a device beyond that 4-year. We're going to have to pick 500 students at any grade level, or some from all grade levels, and say your device needs to last longer than it can last, which is beyond our control. So that would be the only concern I'd have about that. It would be more of a larger conversation with elementary curriculum reconfiguring how we deliver content than it would just to try to pick which 500 devices we want to take the risk with on our network.
That's fine. Okay. All right. I'm not gonna propose that we do that. Dr. Schultz, feel free.
Oh, I don't know if I should now.
To further convince me.
I just want to let you know that we had a long discussion about this. Dr. Taylor and Mr. McCaffrey and I sat down and we tried to do the math on it to see if it would make financial sense. So I think what you're saying, instead of picking first grade, for example, I think we were trying to extend it out. And every time we did it, the only way that it made financial sense was like 4 years down the road, which isn't the worst thing, but I don't know if it's something that we can, there's a lot that I could say. I don't want to belabor the point. There's a philosophical idea about how much kids should be on the Chromebooks, right? But then there's also research supporting, all these things that we've done to shift learning and the workforce, and everyone's on devices all the time. And so we have to have our kids prepared for that. And I think if we don't have them on it when they're younger, we definitely limit the time that they're on it. But so many of our platforms that we use, their personalized learning path from MyPath, which targets them exactly where they need to be, they won't have access to that. So one other thing to consider is just that when we go on DL, students need devices to be on DL if there's an emergency within the school, and we wouldn't be able to have that option if we didn't have them for that. So I think at this point, I would say maybe we could think about that, a rollout plan for another, maybe next year.
Okay.
I don't know for this time.
Okay. Yeah, I would never want a student not to be able to work on a Chromebook. Obviously, that's the world. So
Yeah.
going back to pencil and paper
It's
sounds
a good thought, though. We definitely
It's
did
kinda
try to
silly.
map it out.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm encouraged that it's being talked about and thought of.
Mr. Testa, they had me frustrated. I was ready to jump out the window.
Well, actually, one last question. It has nothing to do with the UCOA codes. This is about unpaid lunch debt. Unpaid lunch debt, right? So I think we're about $250,000, maybe give or take. So what can we do about that? Because we just eat that, right? No, that's no pun intended, I guess, yeah, right? And there has to be another way. I don't know what it is, but there has to be.
One of the first things we discussed with Craig was how they handle lunch debt in East Providence. So he'll have some solutions for us.
Okay, good, okay. That's all I have. I will make a motion later, but if anyone else, I want other people to go first before, is that okay?
Thank you, Mr. Tessa. I think you might have pulled a Cory Booker there and set a record for questions with regards to the unpaid lunch debt. It's kind of like the healthy horse at the wooden nickel factory
Glue
expression
factory.
that you gave.
It's the
Yeah.
glue factory.
So
There you go. I said before that my line of questioning was much deeper than it had been in the past, so thank you.
Any other members of the committee have any questions concerning the budget? Any motions you'd like to put forward? Ms. Kirby Chapman.
I don't know if this is a motion per se, but when looking at the cuts for WISE particularly, I've seen this before, this list, and I'm pretty sure we all said no to all the teacher assistants, the maintenance, so I'm kind of surprised that this is the list again. I don't know even how to address this, that I'm not okay with this cuts. I mean, I know we need to make cuts, and I know everyone's trying to save money, and here I am putting it back in, but I don't know where this is in the budget, but I don't want to vote for it again, another time. I don't know where to put that.
You yield? Thank you. Are you?
I don't know, am I?
I can't answer.
I don't want to vote for this part of the budget. I want to say no to it.
Okay.
So I'm making a motion to not to be.
So you would be making a motion to withdraw the proposed headcount reductions. Is that what you're saying?
At least the ones right here, yeah.
Yeah, there's the 3 tabs there. There's WTU, there's WISE, and there's admin.
The certain department, I don't see how we are cutting them because we've cut them. It's come before us like last year saying we don't need this headcount. Yeah, we don't need this headcount, and we all said, okay, cool, we trust you. You don't need this headcount, and then we turned around and got over budget because we had to bring half of them back.
So all I need you to do is articulate the motion you would like to make. We will see if there's a second. Assuming there's a second, then there would be discussion, and then we could vote on that motion.
I guess I'm making a motion to put the headcount back.
The entirety of what's been presented to us?
How about I make a motion that we relook at this headcount? Somebody help me out here.
Could you restate your motion?
I'm making a motion to put the
Put the head count back in. All right, so there's a motion made by Ms. Kirby Chapman. All tabs or just one tab?
I don't know how to be fair. At least the WISE tab.
Okay, so there's a motion on the table by Ms. Kirby Chapman to reintroduce the WISE cuts. I'd be looking to not entertain the WISE cuts. Excuse me. A motion made by Ms. Kirby Chapman to not entertain the WISE cuts. So these positions would not be a part of the cuts made here this evening through passage of the budget. So there's a motion on the table. Be looking for a second. Seconded by Ms. Hazelwood. So we can open it up to discussion. Would you like to discuss the motion that you made?
The same thing, I just don't know how. I mean, I know you can say you look at data, but we've been here before. So we're supposed to be making cuts, but not at the cost of the kids. But yet here we are, back to where we were before. We're making cuts, head counts. And then there's no guarantee that they won't be put back in. I mean, and we've already been asked to vote on this, and we said no.
Ms. Kirby Chapman yields. Are there any other members of the committee looking to speak? Ms. Hazelwood.
I do have concerns about these cuts. these positions haven't even been seen by the public. They don't know what's being cut. The teachers' union doesn't know what's being cut. The WISE union doesn't know what's being cut. The classrooms don't know what's being cut. And while you can look at numbers, I've been in these roles. And I know numbers don't always show what's going on in those classrooms. You have to be transparent when you're doing these things. When you hide what you're doing, you will have opposition every time. And I oppose these cuts because we don't know really fully how this is going to affect program, how this is going to affect services, how this is going to affect kids. We do not know. That is a fact. So I will also I won't support this.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelwood.
I yield.
Any other members of the committee looking to comment? Okay. See, I'll just make a comment. I agree with my colleagues to my right. These are difficult cuts, and as I stated in my initial remarks, they're tough to make. But at this point in time, and after the research and speaking with the administration prior to the meeting, hearing about scheduling and then looking at the figures for the classrooms for the upcoming year, I have to just trust that they're doing their job and scheduling appropriately and restructuring the organization appropriately. And then also at the end of the day, we've got to remember before we started tonight and before there was a $3 million reduction that passed with our through this process, we were asking for a $5.6 million increase, correct? A $5.6 million increase. That $5.6 million increase included these cuts. So that's, what I would like to see is that money that we saved, that $3 million that we saved and decreased our budget by, when we get our estimated classrooms a little bit more finite, which will be around that July, August, September period, October, if we need to bring people back, at least we're in a little bit better of a position versus, going through this budget process and then having to make other cuts elsewhere on whether they be material or program costs. Because at the end of the day, we're gonna have to draw it down. There's only so much that we can get from the city. There's only so much the city can tax residents. And so let's say they give us more than 50% of a maximum tax increase. They're gonna come back to us, or the budget commission's gonna come back to us, and we're talking about like other cuts that are gonna be terrible. So at this time, if we can look at it and go, okay, let's make sure our scheduling's appropriate. Ms. Barber, can you talk to scheduling? When we caught up, you had mentioned, now that this is the first full year with the new language within the WTU contract and how you could appropriately schedule classes. Could you give us a little bit on that?
Can you just, pertaining to TAs, or I'm just trying to make that connection?
Pertaining to that, to give overview of why we're able to kind of work within these cuts.
So I think just giving a little bit of a description of some of those, it might not link right to this scheduling, but we have 2 students graduating. Those are 2 of those cuts. A student who no longer required a one-on-one in an IEP that we had. Student exiting the district. There's some that are due to low enrollment. Just looking at specific student groupings, that is how those decisions were made.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I noticed there was one that was needing to, one TA that could be reduced due to programmatic numbers decreasing.
Can I ask a question?
I will yield. Yes, go ahead.
Well, it goes with you. How many TAs did we cut, And how many TAs did we bring back? Because
That's a good question.
because we had a certain amount of number according to the data, and then how many kids developed IEPs that we had to bring back. And now we're not budgeting for them? Back to what you were saying.
Sorry. Sorry, for students, we really don't have control. It's impossible to predict, when a student does require a one-on-one throughout the school year. So that is hard. So I know that we did make those cuts last year, and so it wasn't like this position, and then we asked for that same position back. It was an FTE that we did need to, call a position back to fulfill that obligation for what was in that IEP. So I know it's hard to look at it that way. I know that was that WISE union member, but it was for a different reason, a different position. So, and that is hard. It's impossible to predict who would need a one-on-one.
And I don't know the answer to this. With the budget commission, can we just bring it, so say, hey, we need, next year we cut it, and we have to bring somebody back. Is this a whole nother animal now that we have a budget commission?
I defer to legal counsel.
Most certainly is.
Do you yield, Ms. Kirby-Chapman? Okay. If you continue on down the cut list, you'll also notice that there's 6 additions as well. So in addition to their cuts. So that also gave me comfort while I was speaking with them as to the logic and the reason behind this, because it shows that on the same list, they're evaluating where their needs are. I would also comment that, since we've been on the committee together, and then looking back in prior years, I don't think there's been any instance where your TA number that you planned for during budget season is the TA number that you go into your school year with. We could, let's say we ignore all these cuts tonight and we go with your motion, the number could go up, or we could have a drastic decrease in enrollment tomorrow, or these kids end up going out of district, or they require alternative educational placement, and then the TA that was a one-to-one is, then next thing you know, there's a reduction there throughout the year anyways. During this year, we noticed in December, there was a request on the table over to Welk to increase our TA headcount over at Welk. So I think our TAs are going to consistently fluctuate throughout the year. I think that's a position that's very fluid in terms of headcount requirement. But I would go back to my original statement at the start of this meeting. Uncomfortable, questionable, not wanting to do it? Absolutely. Alternative options? We don't have any. If we throw all of this back in, conservatively, $1.8 million that we'd now have to find. If you have $1.8 million elsewhere in this budget that you can propose we cut, I would support your motion, because then we'd save those positions. We've got 100% assurance. But at this point, if we don't have $1.8 million to hedge against these cuts, what is our other option? With that, I yield. Do you have a question or a statement?
Did you add 3 million back? Are you adding 3 million back?
That motion already passed at 5, yes, but we should be reserving that at this time and continuing to examine what else we can do. I understand what you're thinking, Ms. Hazelwood, but we really have to be extra cautious here, is my personal opinion. You guys, I respect both of you. You certainly do what you want here, but my opinion is that with the TAs, we've always have brought them back upon need when identified. I think there's only been one instance in our entire career up here on this stage, and it was December of last year that we actually said no, and that's because we looked for additional information. But anytime a TA request has come before this committee, we've authorized it, which is why.
I have further concern.
Yeah.
Adding to the idea with the Budget Commission, we may have needs that we're not going to be able to meet in those classrooms. That's a reality.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that. The Budget Commission, though, has a
Not
sunset.
that they're going to do what they're
Yep.
supposed to do.
Yep.
And I respect that, but at the same time, I was elected
Yep.
to take care of what happens in the classroom.
Absolutely.
Nobody cared about me taking care of their budget. They wanted me to take care of their kids.
No, absolutely.
And that's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, no, I hope you're not taking out of context what
No,
I'm saying
I know,
there.
but I'm going to add these
100%.
points.
My kids are
because
requiring the
it-
special services.
I'm going
so-
to add these points because we may end up in a position where we have a lot of needs and we don't have the people to take care of it.
Yeah, no, it would be at that point that we would definitely, as a school committee, impose upon the district that they staff accordingly, and I don't think you and I have shied away from
I
doing
will
that in our
not be
career.
quiet. I'll tell you that right now.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Test.
may I?
Mr. Test.
If, and Mr. Hennis, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the language of the Budget Commission resolution was once we passed the balanced budget and had a 5-year plan, the commission's disbanded. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So if we pass a budget and we pass a 5-year plan that's approved, we're not going to be doing that into October, November. So that should be happening fairly soon, I would think. So I think we should have it, got to have it wrapped up by the fiscal year, because the city needs to plan their side of the ledger. So I think some of the concerns that if there's a need come November, we're not going to be able to do it because the Budget Commission is going to stop us. If everything works the way it's supposed to work, there won't be a Budget Commission in November. So it's just would be a non-issue at that point.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Since I started, and since...
Sir, can you please move the microphone closer to your face?
I'm doing the best I
Thank
can.
you.
I gotta pull the... Sorry. So, since beginning on this commission, on this committee, obviously a lot has happened. You've mentioned at the beginning of this meeting about the trouble we're in and the uncomfortable decisions we all have to make. I, as an elected official, as a parent of a son with special needs, as a wife who is a teacher assistant, I also understand what we have to do here tonight. Our job is to get to a point where our deficit is lowered. We get out of the Budget Commission, as Mr. Testa said, sooner rather than later, and be able to get to that. It's just been month after month, week after week. The Auditor General, the mayor, everyone. We have, this staff reductions are not a surprise. We didn't disrupt in January reductions of TAs because it was mid-year. We did not want to disrupt that school year. The idea is that we've given the administration the time to understand what it would mean to look at these and what that scheduling will look like. That's my understanding of this, as I am digesting all of this. I care deeply for the children of Warwick. I care deeply for our educators. I care deeply for this city. I care deeply for the taxpayers. But we are tasked. We are at a point right now where we have to do what we're told to do. We have to make difficult decisions. That's why we're elected, is to also make difficult decisions. This is a difficult decision. This is not what I expected my first budget meeting to be. I respect my colleagues greatly. I respect everything they've done. They've been here longer than I have. I understand their passion and their love for these kiddos. I have the same love and passion. But my hope is, I'm with Mr. Tester on this, where the faster we can get out of this, the better. And so, for that reason, I'm with my colleague. I think we do have to make these cuts.
And
One minute. Just so hold the floor for 1 second. We've got a point of order here.
Okay.
Attorney Hennius, do you want to state the slight conundrum we've had
Well,
here.
what I'd like to do is suggest we take like about a 3-minute recess.
We're in recess until 7:43. Okay. So we had a procedural matter to address. I'm going to turn it over to Attorney Hennius for full transparency.
Yep, so just without getting into specifics, Ms. Hazelwood is going to withdraw her second to Ms. Kirby Chapman's motion, so that motion still stands on the table, but you'd be looking for a second from either Mr. Testa or Chairman Galligan.
So I am withdrawing my motion based on that it would be, it's an ethics violation because I have family in the union. That isn't why I was making the motion, but in full transparency, that's the reason.
Thank you. Given that there's not a second, the motion dies for a lack of a second. Ms. Kirby Chapman, you still have the floor.
I yield.
You yield? Are there any other, do you have anything budget related? Do you? Well, Mr. Wiggins? Mr. Testa?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I would make a motion that of the $3 million reduction in the ERSRI pension, that we reallocate $1 million of that to 52204, the private pension payment. That would bring the contribution up to 3.276, pretty close to the 3.5 that was discussed at a previous meeting, and that should keep us pretty much funded where we are now if we write that check on July 1.
I will second that. Any discussion on the motion made by Mr. Testa? I would just say that, you know, there was concern by the actions of this committee, what was it, a month or 2 months, 2 months ago? And this is a show of good faith by this committee, that we did exactly as we promised. We bought time, we moved our household funds around, and now we're making the Wise Union pension pretty much whole again, or back to the levels that it was previously funded. So we were able to buy ourselves some time there, and I recall we even retained 13 employees at that time as well. So, I support that motion by my colleague. We have two individuals who must Mr. Wiggins and Ms. Hazelwood must recuse themselves. So this is a 3-person vote. So that being stated, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 3-0, 2 abstentions. Testa, Michelle Kirby Chapman. Again. Mr. Testa, anything else?
No, I would just to confirm, my rough tally here is we reduced this by $2.1 million. The $2 million net from the pension. And then Mr. McCaffrey said on 51336 on class overweighting, he said he thought we could trim $100,000 out of that. Those are the only two, actually, you know, we would have to make a motion on that, wouldn't we, Mr. Hennius? On that line item?
Which line item is that?
It was 51336, class overage overweighting. We were budgeting $350,000 more, and Mr. McCaffrey said he thought we could roll $100,000 out of that. So I would have to make a motion to do that, right?
I believe, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I would make a motion that we reduce UCOA code 51336, reduce it by $100,000.
Second.
I'm sorry, could you restate?
Yep. UCOA code 51336 is class overage weighting. We're budgeting $500,000. Last year, or this current year, we budgeted $350,000. Mr. McCaffrey did say in the discussion that he thought we could trim $100,000 out of that. So that's the motion.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Before Mr. Testa yields, I just want to make sure, Mr. Crowley, you've got this? Got your abacus out? It was a joke, sir. All right, Mr. Testa, you still have the floor.
Yeah.
He's going to throw the microphone at me.
51336 is to be reduced by $100,000.
Yes. Thank you. Mr. Testa, you yield? Are there any other comments from members of this committee? Seeing none. Mr. Crowley, can you please give us our updated budget figure now?
Are you in turn talking about your bottom line budget or?
Yes, though, so we, with our starting point, and then we have a $100,000 reduction, a $2 million reduction.
Yep.
So we just
I can
reduced
get
it.
that number to you in the morning.
We got to make a motion on it right now, sir. Mr. Testa, you're getting it for us? All right.
So while Mr. Crowley needs some time to work out those numbers, I think what the committee can do if they're comfortable, someone can make a motion to approve the budget with the amendments that have been passed this evening.
Give me a second. I would feel more comfortable if we had the actual figure. This is not a year to cut a corner.
Mr. Chair, I have the final figure.
All right, Mr. Testa.
198,162,060.
198, 162.
Comma 060. I took the 200, the total, I'm sorry, I took the total revenue budget, 200,262 and $60, and just subtracted 2.1 million.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Be looking for a motion to move approval to the City of Warwick and the Budget Commission for authorization of the FY26 Superintendent proposed budget in the amount of $198,162,060. That's 198, 162, 060, decimal 00. Motion is made. Looking for a motion made by Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion opposed. Opposed. Motion carries 3-2. Ayes are, Ms. Tedeschi, ayes are Testa, Wiggins, Galligan. Nays are Kirby Chapman, Hazelwood. Okay. We are now on to the second public comment portion of the meeting. Individual comments will be respectfully limited to 3 minutes per person, with public comment not to exceed 45 minutes. Though the content of comments will not be restricted, it is the hope of this committee that citizens, committee members, and the administration alike will be respectful of each other's right to speak, tolerant of different points of view, and mindful of everyone's time. This public comment period is for general comments or concerns. Speakers are asked to state their name for the record. So again, those who came in after the start of the meeting, 3 minutes, podium to my left, your right.
Darlene Netco. I noticed, as when you were cutting things, there's one very interesting thing. Number 54602, under rental equipment, why are there 3 copiers being rented for Drum Rock when it's supposed to be torn down? I think that's some money that can go back or be taken out of the budget or whatever, because I don't think you need copiers at Drum Rock. I hear now that there are actual positions on a list somewhere that are to be cut. I think that the public should have access to that information, as the public has always had in the past. This year, all the salaries are lumped together under one line item. In the past, everything was broken down into specific FTEs that were being budgeted for, and that's the way the public could know what exactly was being cut. So it's hard to comment on positions when we don't know what positions are actually being cut. And I just want to finish what I was saying earlier about school budgets. They are different than city budgets, other city departments. There's an educational piece that unless someone is in education, he or she might not understand. For example, we have all that pathways money going out that Mr. Testa mentioned. I, too, like to rail against the pathways because it is one gigantic unfunded mandate. That's another term that we need to constantly remember. And I had mentioned Mr. Crowley's article in the Beacon because he did a good job of delineating all of the special costs that school departments have that other city departments might not have. So when this budget commission starts looking at the budget, I know we have 2 people that the school committee and that the administration have appointed, but we have 3 other people that might not know a thing about schools. And that's very scary. And it's also very scary that the city is not content with doing a power grab through this commission, but now I hear that the mayor is trying to also now appoint 2 members to the school committee and have even more power. So you know what? Maybe the schools need to just be a city department. But until that is the case, we have 5 people that the citizens of Warwick elected to run the schools. And I don't know what this commission is going to do, but I want to caution everyone in the city about giving them more power than they actually have, because that statute is very clear about a number of things. There are exemptions to what this commission can do, and there is a timeline. And I think Mr. Testa pointed out that once our school department has a budget and has a plan for ameliorating the deficit issue, then that commission ceases to exist and we can stop hearing about that stupid commission.
Thank you, Ms. Necco.
But I would like just to add again about that 5% below maintenance of effort cut that the city never has given back, regardless of what anybody else has to say. Go look at Tony Ferrucci's presentations when he was calculating every year how much our school department was in the hole because of that cut and because
Ms.
of the
Necco,
interest on the bond.
thank you.
Hi, Tracy McDermott, taxpayer, TA, back again. I do want to thank Dave Testa because every one of my green highlights was highlighted by Dave Testa, who went through line by line and answered all of my questions. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. So we don't have to talk about that anymore. And I also want to thank Michelle Kirby-Chapman and Leah Hazelwood for trying to help out those WISE union members and those cuts. But when we say the word transparency over and over and over again at these meetings, and the public and everyone watching online has no idea what positions are being cut because you don't provide it, that is not transparent. That is the opposite of transparency. You're sitting up there discussing and making a motion and seconding a motion when we have no idea what you're talking about because we don't have the documents that say what positions you're cutting. You all know what $3 million in positions are being cut. We don't. We're the taxpayers. We pay for those positions. I am a taxpayer. My taxes pay for those public school positions. Whether or not I'm a member of it or not, I'd still be up here. I was up here 30 years ago, before I even worked for the school department. That is not transparent. The fact that I'm glad that you're all getting an education and you're talking to the directors and you're finding out what happens in the schools and you're making these decisions on the budget. But guess what? Not that long ago, the directors of every single department used to present at the budget hearings. Every department, why cuts were being made, why things could be saved. That was presented at every budget. It's like 8 o'clock. We used to go 3 days in a row till midnight, going line by line over budgets where every director presented their budget. And I'm sorry if maybe most of you weren't around when that happened, but that is being transparent. This is not. I think I beat my time.
Yes, you did by 30 seconds. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Mary Townsend, Wise Union President, Special Education Teacher Assistant, 43 years, maybe 44 now. I just wanted to say one thing on behalf of students. When we're having conversations about making cuts to teacher assistants, especially one-on-ones, there is a legal obligation by RIDE to meet the needs of every student that comes into this district. So if a student comes in, or if it's deemed necessary while they're here, and it says they need a one-on-one, I would presume that the Budget Commission can't override a legal responsibility. So I kind of want to make that clear, because I didn't really get that clearly coming even from Mr. Hennius's response. It may be up to the Budget Commission, but services to students are legally provided through RIDE stat, whatever they have, RIDE's rules, I'll call them. And the other thing too is, talking about the eliminations, the last year when there were cuts at the end of the year, and we understand, believe me, WISE members understand, we're all taxpayers, just like Tracy said. But I just want to clarify that however many were eliminated, we were back at the table interviewing for new teacher assistants to either refill those positions or find the people to staff the rooms where those students had moved to, where they needed services. And while I applaud the efforts of, Director Jen Barber and her team and everything they do to determine meeting the needs of students, which they do every day, I also want to question the district to rely on the Budget Commission to be responsible to students. That was my little rant when I testified at the Senate hearing, and that's my rant now. We know what our kids need. We do, the district. That includes all the faculty and staff, all of the administrators in the school committee. We know what the kids need, and the kids deserve everything that they need. And I believe you're all in agreement, despite all of this, but I just had to say that out loud. So thank you. Good night.
Thank you, Ms. Townsend.
Good evening, everyone. Julie Connors Costello, Warwick taxpayer, graduate of the Warwick schools. My children graduated from the Warwick schools as well. I would like to speak to the class overage and waiting, the line item 51336. So we are allowed 26 students in a classroom, and when the percentage of special education students exceeds 30%, there is an overage that is paid per student per day. And that can be a lot of money. So when you're considering, cutting positions, that might be something you want to be aware of. I think that, just speaking for myself, I think I'd rather have more staff than making a few extra dollars for extra, percentage in the classroom. So I know you said it was like $100,000, but, just kind of be mindful that, the extra bodies, it's a lot of extra work too. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello, I'm Dylan Tevia. I'm a custodian here at this school, and I was a student in Warwick School, in the Warwick School Department. And I definitely, a couple things I'd like to talk about. One is AI. That's definitely something you need to be aware about and look into. And any program that detects it, I would highly suggest in investing in it. It's something that is going to be a big issue for students going forward, and it's something that they need to avoid because it will negatively impact their ability to learn. And I also agree that smaller class sizes are better. As someone who suffered from large class sizes, I think the smaller the class size, the better, because I think it allows students to focus more and allows teachers to focus on students more. And so as a new taxpayer and someone who cares about the students, I'd like that to be considered, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members of the public wishing to comment? Any other members of the public wishing to comment? All set. Any other members? No? Still nothing, Councilman? No, okay. Any other members of the public wishing to comment? No. Given that there's no other individuals looking to comment, future meetings, policy subcommittee meeting, Tuesday, May 6th, 2025, 4:30 p.m. Buildings committee meeting, Wednesday, May 7th, 2025 at 7:30 a.m. Monthly school committee meeting. The next one is scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. The next fiscal subcommittee meeting, I've got to get with Mr. Crowley, and we've got to set that up and get that rocking and rolling now that we're fully staffed. And the next health and wellness subcommittee meeting is TBD. The Budget Commission is meeting this upcoming Wednesday, 3 p.m. It's my understanding at the Sawtooth Building. So those who are wishing to go to that, the Budget Commission is meeting on Wednesday at 3 p.m. at the Sawtooth Building. Given that there's no other matters before this committee, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Made by Ms. Hazelwood and Mr. Testa, seconded by Mr. Wiggins. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? We're adjourned at 8:11.